Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. I'm Jurnee Taylor, and here's a look at some of the top stories we're following today. First, is former President Trump immune from federal criminal prosecution? Today, a three-judge panel weighs whether charges from his attempt to overturn the 2020 election should be dismissed. Plus, new clues as aviation experts try to find out how a door flew off a Boeing 737 plane mid-flight and what authorities say they think happened. And a major water project in Hot Springs is underway, making it the first of its kind in North America, which could have a big impact on the area. More on those headlines soon, but first, a look at weather. And Simone Thomas, she told me before the show even started, all kinds of stuff is happening right now in the weather department. Tell me what's going on.
You know, winter in Arkansas, there's nothing left unturned, no stone left unturned. We're dealing with it all. If not today, we will over the coming days. Here's a quick check-in of satellite and radar. That storm system and cold front that moved through overnight off to our east now moving into more of central Tennessee, into western Alabama. What we're seeing left over here in the state, some snow flurries across northwest Arkansas, a few showers extending about as far south as central Arkansas, but there is a winter weather advisory in effect until 3 o'clock for northwest Arkansas. Along with the rain and the snow, we're also seeing some pretty gusty winds gusting over 30 miles an hour across much of the state today. We have that wind advisory in effect through 6 o'clock. We could see sustained winds between 20 to 30 miles an hour with wind gusts as high as 45 miles an hour. Now, if you stick around at 12:12, we're talking about the coming days, and there's a lot more to talk about, so make sure you stick with us.
Simone, thank you. Former President Donald Trump appeared in a Washington, D.C. courthouse today as a federal appeals court hears arguments about whether he should be immune from prosecution on charges he plotted to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Now, Trump claims he cannot be prosecuted for actions taken while in office. The government argues that giving such immunity to a president would allow future presidents to commit crimes without consequences. Skylar Henry reports from Washington.
A motorcade arrived at the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. Tuesday, where an appeals court heard arguments about whether former President Donald Trump should be immune from prosecution on charges that he conspired to overturn the 2020 election. His team argued presidential official acts are not reviewable by the courts, with one exception.
If the president is impeached and convicted by the United States Senate in a, proceeding that reflects, widespread political consensus, that would authorize the prosecution under the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause.
The Office of Special Counsel Jack Smith rejected that claim as baseless, saying presidential immunity would allow a future president to take bribes or even order the National Guard to murder his most prominent critics.
The president has a unique constitutional role, but he is not above the law.
Former President Trump attended this court hearing voluntarily. He wasn't required to be here, despite claims during a fundraising appeal that he's being forced off the campaign trail. Whoever loses this decision will likely challenge the ruling and appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, which could delay Trump's scheduled March 4th trial date. On Thursday, he's expected to be in New York for the closing arguments of his civil trial there. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
And today's court appearance comes less than a week before the Iowa caucuses, where the former president has a commanding lead in the polls for the Republican presidential nomination. Meanwhile, a major mystery in the Alaska Airlines mid-flight blowout. Federal investigators are trying to figure out what happened to the bolts that were supposed to hold the door plug in place. Now, after a days-long search, they found one key piece of evidence, the missing door panel in a high school teacher's backyard. This comes a day after the FAA temporarily grounded all 737 MAX 9 planes. United Airlines said it found loose bolts in the door panels of their 737 planes during inspections. Texts from Alaska Airlines reported seeing loose hardware on some of their grounded fleet as well. In a developing story, a body found in a well in Little River County prompts a homicide investigation. The sheriff in the southwestern Arkansas County says someone found the body of a man in a well on County Road 106. And now the sheriff's office wants to locate 33-year-old Chance Cathy as a person of interest. As for the discovery, detectives believe it had been about 20 feet down the well for a week or two. It's now been sent to the state crime lab for identification. If you know anything about Chance Cathy, you are asked to call police. Meanwhile, the Cleburne County Sheriff's Office also reporting human remains found. These were discovered in a wildlife area in Wilburn, northeast of Heber Springs. The sheriff says someone spotted bones while exploring the area with their dog on New Year's Day. Before finding the bones, the dog also found a gun nearby. But investigators say it's too early or too far to establish any connection to the remains. Everything has been sent to the state crime lab for DNA testing. And the THB 11 update on Monday, Arkansas Attorney General Tim Griffin rejected 4 proposed amendments trying to enshrine Arkansas's freedom of information laws in the state constitution. The AG says these second ballot title submissions are still unclear and could be confusing to voters, especially with the way they try to define transparency and also powers held by the legislature. The committee behind the proposal has already filed a third proposal. The AG will have to approve this latest one before supporters can attempt to petition voters and get on the November ballot. Meanwhile, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson says he is determined to stay in the presidential race despite polling numbers at the 1% mark. Hutchinson says he's not intimidated by what the polls say, and he has every intention of remaining in the race beyond next week's caucuses.
And so I'm going to beat those expectations. I think whenever you get a ticket out of here and you beat a couple of candidates, whenever you're right now at 1% in the poll, but you wind up getting 5%, 10% of the polling, that's a storyline. So pay attention to that.
Former President Trump continues to maintain around a 65% lead in most polls nationwide. A major water project is underway in Hot Springs, and it's nearly finished. It's also the first of its kind in all of North America. The Lake Ouachita Water Supply Project has been several years in the making, but now the city is checking off a lot on the to-do list. In just a couple of weeks, Hot Springs utility customers will have tap water from Lake Ouachita, and the Hot Springs utility director says that's just one of the benefits of this $155 million project. In addition to having better water quality, he says it's saving the city some money, increasing the overall supply.
2012 was our first real hard experience with it. We maxed out our plant somewhere around 50 to 60 times we've maxed out our treatment plant in the summer months.
He also says that won't be a concern anymore because they're building a new water treatment plant and have added a micro tunnel through Blakely Mountain to take water from Lake Ouachita. The city expects to finish the project by the end of next year. The University of Arkansas is offering a new fully online grad degree geared towards jobs in sustainability. They're calling it environmental resiliency. It's a term the school is using to describe new ways of approaching issues on climate change in all fields. The new program will be entirely online and geared towards people already working. Classes begin this month, and the U of A says students enrolled in fully online programs like this pay in-state tuition. Well, happening today, the long-awaited opening of a Little Rock restaurant that's been closed for 9 months. Eat My Catfish is welcoming back hungry customers at the Breckenridge location that took a direct hit in March 31st tornado. This is the location. This is the location on Breckenridge. The restaurant held its grand reopening about an hour ago and has now opened its doors to public to resume serving customers again. Also happening today, the Argenta Downtown Council will host a ribbon-cutting ceremony to celebrate a new art installation in the Argenta Arts District. The council will unveil a glass and metal sculpture commemorating the Trail of Tears in front of the Argenta branch of the North Little Rock Public Library System. The ceremony is set for 2 p.m. on 420 Main Street in North Little Rock. 4 astronauts are on a mission to Mars without leaving the state of Texas. Coming up, a look at Johnson Space Center in Houston, where a year-long research mission is now underway. Simone?
And if you think it's cold now, wait until next week. I'll have the full forecast talking about what's on the way right after this break.